how do I utilize my social media or my platform to get sponsorships and to make money. Welcome back to my channel. If you aren't familiar with me, I'm the founder of Be Fearless Inc., as well as a weekly newsletter called Stay Fearless or Die Trying, and a podcast called The New Unfiltered. I've been in the startup game for 10 years, started a blog when I was 12, and managed to build it out into this full-time lifestyle platform that's enabled me to make a full-time living off of, you guessed it, yours truly. So I've got a lot of secret hacks. I've got a lot of secret tips I've learned over the years on not only how to monetize your platform, but how to think outside the box if you don't have millions of followers and want to start reaching out to get sponsorship, even get sponsored product. So I like to start this conversation off with the discussion surrounding free/sponsored travel. Now, if you're subscribed to my newsletter, if you're not, do so right here. Subscribe button. Every single week I talk a lot about this kind of stuff, which is how to get in front of the right people, how to get those kind of sponsorships. This is something that a lot of people think comes very easily and naturally in this day and age, and quite frankly, it doesn't. You probably get frustrated reaching out to brands and not hearing back because you have to realize that thousands of people are also reaching out to these brands and to these hotels. So you have to really figure out what sets you apart when it comes to figuring out your pitch and how you're going to reach out to someone. My number one tip for reaching out to hotels and to get sponsorships is to realize that you have to be very strategic with the way you pitch. I never reach out to a hotel and say,
hey, can you give me a free stay for this next week, a week before I'm traveling, or a day before I'm traveling.
Especially do not ask for a free stay in return for a post. Whenever I go to write any type of email to a hotel, even a brand, but most importantly, hotels or airlines, I have a very thorough proposal written out that gets sent to the head of marketing because most people who work in marketing are significantly older than me. I'm 25, I grew up with social media, but the people who are getting my emails aren't necessarily in the same bucket. So they may not be familiar with this new landscape. So I like to send a really thorough, fleshed out proposal for what I can offer them. Maybe that's 1, 2, 3, 4 blog posts. Maybe that's an online review. A lot of people forget that just because you're an influencer doesn't mean that this hotel needs your influence. They are relying on most people who are paying to go and stay at that hotel, and they're going to find out about their hotel via online reviews, TripAdvisor, Google, whatever it is. So don't forget to add that in there when you go to write your proposal to get a sponsored hotel. Airlines are incredibly difficult to get sponsorships. I've gotten sponsored by British Airways and Spirit and Breeze Airways over the years. Quite frankly, I have no idea how. Honestly, I used my media list to get in front of those people. But I can tell you they are not partnerships that are consistent and they require a lot of time. If I'm asking for a $500 or $1,000 flight and that takes me 15 or 20 hours of work, usually it would be actually more practical to just buy the flight than to do that amount of work, but it depends what it is that you're looking for from these sponsorships. If you don't have a media kit, I'm going to plug mine because Be Fearless creates and sells custom media kits. You can grab one at the link in the bio of this video. But if you don't have a media kit, you're really selling yourself short. I would say that I hear back from 99% of the brands or companies that I reach out to because I attach this media kit in the email. Which brings me to my next point. I don't talk about money in the initial email. I like to say a few different sentences like, hi, are you looking to partner? Or hi, do you have budget to attribute to any potential social media integration? I like to say that in the first or second email. That's if I'm emailing a brand. I never ask hotels or airlines to compensate me unless they're reaching out with a compensation offer because I'm happily fine to take the comped hotel room or the comped flight. But again, this depends on who you are as a creator and what it is that you're really looking for. I like to view my job as there's the fun side of it and there's the work side of it. Now, when I get comped product or a free hotel room and all I have to do is like show up and post, that's the fun part of it, but it also doesn't pay my bills. So it's the same way that if you're a nurse, you may love your shift with the kids unit, but you may not love your shift with the adults. So it's like, it's all work, but it's kind of just like give and take for what it is that floats your boat in that moment. But I always attach a media kit and I always avoid talking about money in the first or second email, but I also don't go on a lot of phone calls with these brands. You can get exactly what you need from a brand with that first few emails. They're either going to reject you or say yes to you. And even if they don't reject you, you can easily follow up with a sentence saying, do you have budget for XYZ? And again, they're going to tell you right off the bat whether or not they do. So I think it's silly to circle around the most important topic, which is money, because you're wasting your time and the brand's time. I've seen a lot of creators reaching out to very large companies, hotels, brands, like the Targets and the Hyatts of the world, when they either don't have any, if they're a podcast host, whether they don't have any podcast episodes out yet, or they don't have tons of followers. And here's the reality of this game. Number one, it's a game, right? So I've been in this game for a decent amount of time. And I don't have millions of followers, but I'm able to make a six-figure living off of this company and start other companies. So that shows you something right there. That's why I like to consider myself an expert in this field, is because I figured out the way to get around some of these tactical things a lot of people don't want to deal with, which is the numbers game, which is the rejection game. And it's a volume game. The more emails you send out, the more brands you're in contact with, the more hotels you pitch, the better response rate you're going to get. But you also need to be aware of the fact that just because you have a following or just because you have a good website doesn't mean that you're at the level of getting these types of sponsorships. And I think being aware of that going into your pitch not only shows this hotel that you're looking to partner to get value on both sides, but that you're also aware that you're growing your brand. And so the way that you can do this is, don't go to a Four Seasons and send a cold pitch. Send a few cold pitches to bed and breakfasts, to hostels in your area or the city that you're looking to travel to. They're going to be way more willing to partner with you because they don't need your kind of media. Unless you are someone who has millions of followers, and that's awesome, good for you. I would certainly say you can go to the Four Seasons or the Hyatts. They may still reject you because a lot of these larger brands are looking for mainstream media. They want to be in newspapers. They want to be in front of the mass amount of people, which you find not only in traditional media, TV, magazines, but also online. You can easily go to them. But again, if you don't have any case studies, if you don't have any testimonials, then I would say you really save your time and go to some of the smaller companies. And another reason I urge you to do that is because working with companies, there's a lot of things that can go wrong. I mean, I've had a lot of partnerships that, I don't want to say they've gone south, but they've gone kind of rogue because we had different expectations. I'm very strategic now when I'm working with a brand. I'm like, what do you expect from this partnership besides sales? Because I've partnered with hotels before and I've done the posts and they're like, this isn't what we were expecting. And I'm like, okay, but you didn't tell me what you were expecting. So I just did what I thought I should do. And that's where there's this blurry line. So you want to be as strategic as you can when you're sending emails to them. But you also want to realize that hotel chains like Four Seasons, like Hyatt, they have way more specific guidelines, and people are people. They may forget to give you those guidelines. They may have different expectations, and you may just get totally rubbed the wrong way after your first partnership. And you want this to be a lucrative thing that you're able to keep going back to, not be something where you have one experience with a hotel, you hate it, and then you don't want to do this anymore. This is very similar across the board for also podcast hosts. I was speaking to someone a few weeks ago, and she asked me what brands she could pitch for her podcast. And I said, well, who are the guests coming up? Where are the episodes? And she just said she didn't have any episodes out yet. She didn't know who the guests were going to be. And I was like, okay, how can you expect someone to pay you when you have no proof this is even going to work? Think about it like this. If you go to a company and you get them to pay you for 3 episodes and then you decide not to do this anymore or you don't want to do it, now you're creating a cycle where you're not a super authentic creator and you're not going to be able to build a fan base because people are going to sense the fact that you don't like doing this. My goal for this point is to tell you that you need to have traction. You need to put content out there before you can expect people to pay you. Like I said at the beginning of the video, there are millions of people doing this, trying to get free hotels, trying to get money for their podcast. What sets you apart is how much you're putting into it. Is the following going up? Are the numbers going up? Are you tracking that? I mean, that's what sets influencers and content creators apart from entrepreneurs, is the business side of being an entrepreneur. You know, you have to track all of this stuff. You aren't just posting videos or a podcast episode waiting for it to hit and expecting that brands are going to pay you. In the same way that you want to reach out to brands and get paid, you also need to realize that they're a brand, and so they want to view you as a brand, and you need to view them equally as a brand to what you can give to them through this partnership. I hope this video lays out some of the life lessons I've learned through being a creator and getting sponsored hotels and traveling around the world and partnering with brands. There is a whole business side to this dynamic, and though influencers and content creators are not traditional media like magazines and TV, it's ideal that you view yourself as some form of a brand, because you want to partner with these bigger brands and you want them to view you as a brand and you view them as a brand, right? So always go into these partnerships saying, what can you help this company with as a creator, as a consultant? Otherwise, it's very lopsided and you're going to keep getting rejected. And the goal from me educating you on these topics is that you're not getting rejected, but that you are getting smaller yeses that will lead up to some of those bigger hotel, flight, compensated partnerships. I talk about a lot of this content in my newsletter, Stay Fearless or Die Trying. So if you want to hear more advice on getting in front of these brands and making this a career, a full-time gig for yourself, subscribe to Stay Fearless or Die Trying. And I post videos every single week on YouTube that hopefully inspire you to be fearless and get out of your comfort zone to help fuel your journey for making this a lucrative business for yourself. I'll see you guys on Friday for a new Fearless Fridays.